So if we fast forward to today, you now own over 50 free and clear rental properties. You flip 40 to 50 properties per year remotely, and you own a management company, and you do this all from working on all your real estate less than an hour a day. So I'm sure that pretty much every single person listening to this would love to be in that position, but it's hard to see kind of how that is possible. It feels like it's just too good to be true. So, I guess what were the milestones, or like when did you start to shift your focus from just buying some rental properties where you were probably doing all the work to starting to set up systems along the way?
Um, I think it came from, I read the book E-Myth Revisited
Mm-hmm.
by Michael Gerber. I think that had a big influence on how I started looking at my business. And I think it was a big inspiration for REsimpli also, to be honest. I read that book and I started thinking about, wait a minute, like nobody other than me personally care about, the different finishes that I'm putting in my rental properties, right? If one rental property I go in and I have this nice beige color, right? There's no reason for me to go to the next house and not use the same color. I think that's where I was being very inefficient with
Mm.
what I was doing. And then after reading the book, it kind of just gave me this aha moment. Like I could just have systems and processes, especially if you're doing a lot of rental properties. Like I could just have what works for one house in this neighborhood, in this city, is going to work for every single house, that I'm doing. Um, so now it's gotten to the point, like, believe it, I live in California. We do all our investing in Northwest Indiana, and my project manager that manages all our flips lives 1 hour north of me in California. So
Mm.
she's managing everything. We don't have any local person in Indiana. I mean, I have a property management business. So I have 4 employees in that business, but they're separate company. They don't have anything to do with the house flipping business. But my project manager, Claudia, who lives an hour north of where I live, is managing all our flips, all our contractors, and everyone in Indiana. And my lead manager actually lives in Canada. She's never visited Northwest Indiana. Claudia has. She goes once every 4 to 6 months, not just to manage our properties, but she's been with me for about 6, 7 years, and over the 6, 7 years, she's built a portfolio of her own properties. She's bought her own rental properties. So she, every 4 to 6 months, she visits just to kind of check on our properties and also kind of, stay connected with our contractors. But yeah, I mean, like that book, and then making sure hiring the right people and then giving them, the autonomy to make the decisions, within certain guidelines, that's made world of difference.
Got it. Yeah. And what does your team look like beyond Claudia? And you said you had 4 employees in the property management.
4 employees in the property management, but like if I just talk about my house flipping business,
Mm-hmm.
it's just me, uh, with very, very, very minimal involvement. I mean, I would say it used to be 1 hour per day. I would say it's 1 hour per week now, that I spend on the business. But Claudia manages all the operational side of it. And then I have my lead manager, Apple. She used to live in Philippines. She's been with me for about 4 or 5 years. She used to live in Philippines. She moved to Canada for higher studies. She's continued working for me. And she manages all the like the marketing side of the business. And that's so it's 3 of us. And then,
Wow.
I own rental properties. So I started my own property management company, and then we sell properties to other turnkey investors. And then for that purpose, I started my property management company, and then I have 4 people in that business.
Wow. That is incredible. To do that much volume with only really 3 people. So
Right.
I would imagine, I'm thinking about the things that I am involved in my business. It's typically, I try to make it higher level tasks, but it still eats up some time. One thing that my mind goes straight to is like purchasing the deal. So it sounds like you're not even making the decision on what
I'm
deals
not.
to buy anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we buy in like even in Northwest Indiana, we buy in like really 4 cities: Highland, Griffith, Merivale, and Hammond. Um, in East Chicago, actually, 5 cities. And then we know what our numbers look like. We know how much we can sell the property for. If you buy in Highland or Griffith, we know this is going to be a flip for us. If you buy in Hammond, Maryville, East Chicago, we know it's going to be turnkey properties. We know what the numbers, how much we can sell it for, how much it rents for. So there's like no decision that needs to be made, right? There's like me looking at picture of a house, it doesn't add any value, right? If I look at the picture or video of a house, it really doesn't add any value to me or to anything in the business. So like it just like I've delegated the stuff where other people in my team are a lot better at doing that. My role is to just make sure I hire the right people, put them in the right seat, and then they do whatever they're best at. And then the other role is that I make sure we have enough money to keep buying the properties that we want to
Yeah.
buy. And that's pretty much it. I mean, and then I of course sign the closing documents. The buy side I sign, the sell side I don't even sign the closing document. I've given power of attorney to my property manager in Indiana. She lives in Hobart. So, when we are selling properties, we need to get documents notarized. So even that, I've given her power of attorney. We close every single property, sell side with the same title company. So they don't even have to ask us for the binding instruction. They know instead of me, who's going to come in to sign the document, that person signs the document, they send the money over, and that's pretty much it. I mean, we've tried to make it as simple as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And that's how I like it. I really, really value my time. That's the most important, resource that I have. And not that I'm out there using my time in the, like trying to solve world hunger or anything. Like I just want to have freedom of my time, and I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do with who I want to do,
Yeah.
things with. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And I think that's the ultimate goal, right? Because that's the thing you can't get back is time. But,
Yeah.
when it comes to the financing side of it, I was going to ask you about that too. How do you ensure that that you're monitoring or tracking the finances, and making sure that, if other people are making the decision about investing hundreds of thousands of dollars of your money or your investors' money, how do you stay on top of that to know that it's being allocated the way that you would want it to be?
Yeah, so for example, I'll give you a practical example. For my project manager, Claudia, I've set up a separate bank account, right? I have a bank account, Novo Bank. You can set it up with any bank. And then my primary operating bank is Chase, right? So when we enter, we buy and sell properties, money goes out and comes into Chase. But when we're doing rehab, I move, 10, 15, 20, $25,000, depending on how many projects we have going on once a week over to the Novo Bank. Claudia pays the contractors. I've never met the contractors. I've never talked to them. I just know their name because I see them, their name pop up in our financials. Other than like just to even like if you were one of our contractors working on, I would have no idea. I would have no
Yeah.
idea, that you're working on them. Before we buy, the only thing that I need to know is how much money we're gonna make. That's it. And then I just give a green light on it. And then the way we've set up pay structure for my project manager is she has a base pay of 40,000, and then every project that we sell, she makes 10% of the profit. But we have to make minimum $15,000 profit.
Okay.
So we put these, things in place at so she makes a lot more money from the bonus than she does from her base pay. So we put these things in place where the more money we make as a business, the more money she is going to make. And then we've also put that, guidelines that, okay, if for every month that it takes us to finish the project, whatever our total cost is, 1% of that comes out of the net profit. So let's say we buy a house for $100,000, sell it for 150. Let's say our total all-in 100,000. We sell it for 150. There's a difference in that $50,000 profit whether it took us 3 months or it took us a year. If we spend $100,000, we take 1% of that, which is $1,000, and it took us 3 months. Then $3,000 comes out of the net profit, goes towards our, marketing cost, holding cost and stuff. So now it's $47,000 that she gets a percentage of. But if the
Ah.
same project takes us 12 months, now it's $12,000 coming off the bottom line. So instead of $47,000 getting split, she's getting percentage of, what is that, like 50 minus 12, 38,000. So then
Yeah.
it's in her best interest to move the project as quickly as possible, because, we're making more money as a company, she's making more money, as part of the profit share, and then also we can use the same money, 2 or 3 times a year.
Man, I love that because it's all about incentive, aligning incentives to where everybody is
Yep.
incentivized with the same thing, and that's a really tricky thing to do sometimes, or it's not intuitive, but that makes so much sense because you want to just keep churning that money over as quickly as possible. So I'm
Yeah, I mean, I
curious.
used to be an
I'm sorry. Go
accountant,
ahead.
so that's where like just comes from. Like everything has to be data driven. Like everything has to be, whatever we're doing, it should not be based on my, intuition, my gut feeling, or my opinion about something. It should be based on numbers. I should be able to look at numbers and see, does it make sense, yes or no? And then if it does, let's do more of it. If not, then let's just stop doing that.